Hello, welcome to our Divergent Discussion. I'm Michelle and I am the founder of Kaboose. We're an inclusive, safe online community for neurodivergent people to connect, learn, and thrive. We are recording today, so for all of you watching, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and at the end, we will send you off the recording. I would really like to introduce our guest today. Hello, Luke. Luke and I met some years ago now, but Luke has given us a bio which talks about struggling to understand the social cues and having communication challenges as a result of autism and ADHD. But he's turned himself into a self-made entrepreneur and is now the founder of Spectrum Quest, where he runs role-playing games for social gains. So we're going to find out a lot about using tabletop role-playing games and how he helps neurodivergent people with social development through these collaborative storytelling games. Having become more than he ever dreamed or imagined he could be, he loves seeing others become likewise through this fun and creative way. So welcome, Luke.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on. How many years ago was it when we first met? It was like 3 years ago, something like that.
I think it would be 3 or 4 because I think we were very early in our Kaboose journey.
Yeah,
And
that rings a
I,
bell too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. So we caught up, and I was really impressed with how Luke was starting, his gaming company, social company at that point. So I guess, Luke, for everyone who doesn't have the benefit of knowing you, tell us a bit about your personal journey and how gaming became such a powerful tool.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say I'll start with a little story that I think illustrates me quite well when I was younger. I was about 10 to 12 years old, give or take. And I remember sitting in the dining room and my sister was like in the like kitchen that was right next to it and she was singing. I remember thinking to my young little self, I want to that's wonderful singing. Man, she's such a beautiful singer. Man, I love my sister. I want to encourage my sister in her singing. And so I said, Sister, you should take singing lessons.
Mm.
Suffice to say, probably not the best way to phrase it. But after a little bit of digging with Mom there was some clarification brought about that. I probably meant to say, hey, your singing is so good, therefore you should continue to develop it with singing lessons because I think it's worth that.
Yeah,
Right?
right. It's a
Suffice,
nuance, right?
yeah, the nuance that the autistic kid that I was back then, I mean, I'm still autistic, ADHD, was not the best at communicating, shall we say. But I would like to say that since then I have improved. I hope this is an example of my improvement being here right now. But that came through like good supportive friends in my case and really good
Mm,
parents. I
mm,
recognize some families can have some challenges. I also did a lot of self-directed work over the years, reading books, listening to podcasts. I was in a program for a short while, which really helped me grow a lot, having a mentor. And yeah, over the years, I grew in my own capacity a lot. I also studied game design. I have a diploma in it, and I have not stopped since then. I have worked, most of my work has been with neurodiverse people, particularly autistic people, as it became a bit of a, oh, you've worked with autistic people? Hey, would you like to work with more autistic people? And I'm like, sure, I'm fine with that. And I have been playing role playing games since primary school. And
right.
I'd love to tell one more story around that.
Yes, please
Right.
do.
Yeah,
Mm,
of how much like I've done role playing games in primary school, have not stopped, absolutely love it. And a particular example of why I absolutely love them. I was a player in a game once, and I had a character called Saka. Saka Yonyo was his full name, and he was searching for his son. Right, that was the sort of narrative we created, and he had to talk with this High Lord this fancy person who potentially could help me get a bit more information as to where he is. And I remember Luke, the player, was so nervous. I was so anxious talking with this fictional character with my friend at the table who's playing this High Lord. We're just having fun. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Wow.
He came to me next week being like, hey, like, what was going, like, are you okay? What is it that I said? And just to make sure things were okay. But I was like, the visceral experience of the anxiety, I loved it so much because I was just there in that moment with this High Lord. And also he was very good at running the game, which helped too. So I love role playing games.
Amazing. Well, I know that I was, super curious when we met, and I know people who've responded to our session today will be really interested to kind of hear the journey of what inspired you to start your business. Um,
Yeah.
and, specifically, probably using some of those examples you've just given, why specifically for neurodiverse communities.
So what inspired me? I would, so the reason I started Spectrum Quest, the reason I started was because of climate change.
Okay, okay. Please share more.
Yeah, so it's not the answer one would expect, would they? So
No,
let me
I was not
explain.
expecting that answer.
No, no. Let me explain. There's obviously more to it than just that. I was listening to a climate scientist talking about climate change, and I remember he said, he or she, I cannot remember for the life of me who said it, but they said after years and years of doing all this work on climate change, like 10, 20 years or something like that, researching and how do we best deal with it, I've come to the conclusion that climate change is a spiritual problem. And I was like, you need to see a doctor because that is not how climate change works. Like, I like, I'm Christian, prayers, I have no issue with prayer, but that by itself is not going to magically solve it. What are you talking about, buddy? And when he or she, they went on to explain that the issues with climate change aren't technological at all. We have the means 100% to fix climate change. Like, it won't happen overnight, obviously, but we can
Mm,
implement so much. We have the means to do so. The issue is people not listening to the other side, arguing with each other,
mm,
politics, the companies and people in power who can make decisions in these areas not being willing to change and all this stuff. And I go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And I'm thinking about it, I go, a lot of areas in life, a lot of problems we face, it's all to do with how we interact and connect with each other. There's a phrase of, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know, but you can only know people if you know how to connect with them and listen to them and understand them, build good
mm,
character. And I want to be able to have an impact on the world, right? I want to have a
mm.
positive impact. You can kind of see where the link's going, right? You can kind of
Yes.
see, I want to improve how we talk with each other because I know that's going to have the biggest impact on the world. And I
Mm,
realized the way I can do it, I love role playing games. I love game design. I love personal
mm,
growth and have done a lot of that. I'm autistic and understand what it's like. And I've worked with neurodiverse people for all my life.
mm,
This is a great combination, especially when I started discovering, wait, there's research saying that role playing games can help people grow in the
mm.
ability to relate to each other. Yeah, okay, I'll
Yes.
run role playing games for sure. This is a win all round. So
It's
that's what
amazing.
got me going on this.
Amazing. So, not everyone, I certainly didn't know until we met, what tabletop games, role playing games is compared to the other type of games. So, we will no doubt have a few parents online today. Tell us more about what a role playing game is, tabletop role playing game is.
Yeah, fantastic. So throughout human history, we tell stories. There are caveman paintings on walls. They have stories in them, right?
Very
And I
true.
think that's what the core of a role playing game is. We're here to tell a story. The game mechanics, right? The way it works is not there to create a system which can be mastered as much as a system which supports that storytelling. So let me go into some more of the specifics. You have a bunch of people sitting around a table face to face, so no screens. You can use screens, that
Ah,
you can use the technology if you want, but by
mm,
default you do not need screens, and I don't use screens.
okay,
We
amazing.
create our character sheets. So the players, there'll be a bunch of players at the table. They'll create a role. It's a role playing game. So they might be a wizard, they might be a captain of a starship, they might be a detective, or they might be Bob at a retail store. Whatever role
Mm,
suits the particular role playing game being used. But one person will be what's called the GM or the game master. And they're there to describe the world. They're playing all the characters that our heroes, that the other players are playing, will meet along the way and the adventure they'll go on. And the GM describes the world, the guards they meet, the king, and what they do in response to the players. And from that back and forth, and with some support of the game mechanics, a story naturally emerges.
mm,
And I would say that kind of summarizes it.
amazing. Yeah. Okay. I know when we were talking, there were lots of abbreviations being used,
Yes.
and I was like, hang on, if we're going to talk about abbreviations, like tabletop role playing games,
Yeah.
TT,
PG. Yeah.
are there other ones that get through it, like for parents or for people looking to get into tabletop games? What are the other abbreviations that you
Not
use?
I would say not too many, thankfully. So RPG,
Okay,
role
good.
playing game. So
Okay,
you're taking on a role, though there are also computer role playing games. But that's not what this one. This one's a TTRPG, tabletop role
I
playing game,
see.
as mentioned.
Right.
There's the
Yes.
GM or the DM, so the game master or the dungeon master,
Okay.
depending what system you're using. So
Okay.
I prefer game master. So they're the one running the world.
Okay.
You got the
Okay.
players. Usually players refers to the people at the table, and sometimes, depending who you're talking to, some people will say it includes the GM. I like to think of it as including the GM. You have
Yes.
PCs, player characters. So this is not the players at the
Okay.
table, but the characters they create and write up. And then you've got NPCs, so non-player characters that the GM, the game master, plays, and that the players' characters meet. Making sense?
Right. It is. So the GM can wear multiple hats or can
Yeah,
play multiple. Yeah, right. So they're a
absolutely.
non-player. Right.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Amazing. And so, tell us more about how these games then help with building social skills. Now, in the neuroaffirming world, we say everyone should be able to communicate in their own way, but we know, as you just described, there are some nuances in
Yeah.
communication and social. So it's not to change people or to develop them as such, but it's
Yeah.
to build skills. Can you tell us more about that or the social cue development?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that it mainly comes down to experimenting and practice is what this space
Mm,
provides. So you're here to tell a story. Doesn't matter if whether it's a good story or a bad story is irrelevant. You're here to tell a story and have some fun with your friends. But because of
mhm,
the nature of you're telling a story and you're playing a character who interacts with other characters, you're automatically going to be practicing social skills. But
mhm.
it's fun, right? There's no pressure that you
Yeah.
do it the way you want to. You can try stuff out, you can experiment.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do this and see what happens here. Oh, that went terribly. Okay, cool. Thank goodness it's not my real life, right? It's just mucking
Yes.
around, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, and developing a story from there. But it's
Yeah.
what's called autonomy based. So I'm not, I really, really avoid telling the players, this is how you deal with it, right? I'm
Mm.
upfront with all my players. Hey, I'm here to help people grow in their social skills. I want people to have a bit more confidence, but I don't want to be like, today we're learning about conflict resolution. This is how you do it. Like,
Yes.
no. If
Exactly.
you need
It's
help
like,
in
oh,
that, yeah,
yes.
like stay away, stay away. And some of the players are like, yes, please. don't give that to me. But I will, like, if they ask for help, I'll absolutely help. If they say, hey, can you
Mm,
help me figure out how do I do this here?
mm,
And so the idea is the players can just try stuff and figure out what works for them and
mm.
practice it, and they'll naturally grow. Hopefully, the idea is they grow however they need it to look in their social skills. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Does that clarify it a
it
bit?
does. Yeah, it's really good. I guess many kiddos or even, adults can become very anxious at going somewhere. Do you see people like feeling less anxious about playing these tabletop games because they already have an interest or, because I mean, Luke, that I'm a parent of a young person who back when maybe he was, more into gaming, he would be very nervous about going somewhere to do something like this. What's your experience with that?
Yeah. So I've found it's people. So at first, it depends upon the person. There is a degree to
Mm,
which there is some discomfort, right? You're doing something new. It doesn't matter what that new thing is. There's some degree of I'm figuring out what's going on here. I don't understand it. Even if you're
mm,
playing a computer game that you've not played before, you might be keen to
mm.
play it, but that doesn't mean you necessarily know what you're doing, right?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
so there is a degree, discomfort is a normal human emotion, and it is a normal part of a human being. It's not going to magically go away. There's going to be times in your life where you're uncomfortable, and you have to
Mm,
learn to be regulated and learn to deal with that and learn to either stay calm or find a way to process that.
mm,
Um, I generally find I always encourage parents, like, you sign up for the term because you're not going to get a full picture of what the role playing game is like after the first session. It takes a while
mm.
to get used to, but I find
Yes.
once a few weeks have gone in, people starting to get used to each other. I've not really had many issues. Like, sometimes people butt heads,
Mm,
and that's what I'm here for, to help each other work it out. But
mm,
I generally find that even at times when I've had people who struggle and get anxious or whatever, they've also said to me, "Oh man, I really love being here. Like, we'll finish the session. Like, I love being here. It's lots of fun." And the parents will tell me, like, he keeps raving about it, but in the session, it looks like, they're getting anxious. This is going on, but like, they get
mm,
really invested because by a few weeks in, we've written up the character. They've started to get used to how to role play, and
mm,
because they put in their own effort and investment into the game, and
mm.
you know, contributing, they're like, "Yeah, I wanna be here. I Yes, it's hard
Yeah.
sometimes, but I kinda wanna be here,
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
and have a lot more fun."
Yeah, I get it. Yes, I get
For
it.
sure.
And so I suppose, like, maybe you could share a story of someone you've seen, a particular breakthrough or some kind of transformation. Maybe,
Yeah,
someone who started. Yeah, be keen.
absolutely. So um I had one group, they struggled to focus for peanuts. Like, bless them, but jumping around the place, interrupting each other, not able to take turns, and just really struggling. But I, like I said to them, is I I don't want to force them to be like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. I just sort of highlight to them, it's like, hey, do you notice, like, I notice you guys getting frustrated because you keep interrupting each other, the story's not going anywhere. And they're like, yeah, this is really frustrating. Yeah. It's like, okay, do you want to do something about it? And they go, yes, we want to do something about it. I'm like, great. Why don't at this, because we're at the end of the session at that point. Next week, at the start of the session, we can have a chat and you guys decide how you want to deal with it. And like, I'll come in with some suggestions. And
Mm,
and so we get to that, and they say, and I'm like, okay, do you guys want to chat about this? And they all go, nah, we don't want to do it. And I'm like,
no.
you don't want to try and figure out how you want to do it differently? No, 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 it's fine. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But if it happens again, it's your fault. What? Yeah, like, if you're choosing to not try and do things differently, you're going to get the same results, and that's your choice because you have an opportunity here to change it. And they're like, okay. And sure enough, after a couple of weeks, they're bumping heads again. And it's like, are you enjoying this? They're like, no. Great. Do you want to try again next week? And this time it actually happened. And they ended up going with what I suggested when they asked for my input. Again, when they asked for my input. And we use a cup system. So they got two cups or two chalices because they were just sitting as a decoration in the room. So it's like, okay, we'll just use these two chalices here, right? And so only those who are holding a chalice and the GM can speak. And it
Yeah,
worked
the
like
talking stick.
crazy. Yeah, the talking stick, in this case, the talking chalice. It worked crazy good. But the reason I'd say it worked so ridiculously well is partly
Mm,
because the players were choosing it. They were getting frustrated. They wanted things to change. So when a system came in and they were open to that system, they were willing to abide by it and bear consequences
mm.
when they did not abide by it.
Yeah, that's really cool. We have a question in the chat from Chloe. Does
Yeah.
Spectrum Quest have anything for young adults, mid-20s?
Yeah.
So maybe tell us a little bit about those groups as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently, you can apply at any age. I'll answer a bit more broadly than just that question, but the answer will be
Mm,
there. Is there So you can apply at any age, and it just goes to waiting list style because I wait till I've got enough people of the same age range interested in a time slot that everyone can make or can potentially make. I then reach out to those people and say, hey, do you want to jump in on a group on this time of the day so that everyone's starting together? As I think that leads to much better outcomes and is also a lot easier for developing the program for that group, right? So that's how we
yes.
get things going. At the moment, I'm just running ages 10 up. Again, you can apply for younger, though I'm considering younger age groups at some point, perhaps. I do have slots for adult groups. The best way to go is visit the website as it does occasionally change. And you'll see there's time slots for daytime slots and teenage and adults time slots. And then, as I said, once I have enough people around the same age,
Mm,
I'll be like, do you guys want to play a game together? So, yes. The short answer is yes, we do. That's the long answer.
fantastic. Awesome. And David asks, how are the sessions charged? Is it through NDIS or fee for service?
So it is NDIS claimable. I do charge it around that. I have some people who decide just to pay out of pocket because they really want to be keen. I'm like, sure, go for it. But yeah, it can all be covered by NDIS if that's what you need.
Great. Yeah, great. Especially for those people, I imagine, who are plan or self managed. I think
Yes.
agency is
Yes.
probably a bit harder to claim some stuff in my
Yeah.
experience, but
Yes.
yeah,
My experience too. I have had to deal with that before, but they were keen to join. And so we figured out how to make it work.
you've figured out.
Yeah.
Great. Amazing. So tell us maybe a little bit more about the storytelling and imagination play and the role that has in supporting mental health and just that emotional growth. I can see some links already, but I'd love to hear from your perspective how it's helping.
Yeah, this question, there is so much that could be said here and so
Mm,
much that could be talked about. So I'll try and like keep myself somewhat contained. I'll focus on imagination. You said that just before. I'll
mm,
focus on that for a second. I would say imagination, first of all, is mandatory in humans' well-being because you need it for problem solving. If you cannot imagine something, if you cannot imagine something different or a different possibility, you cannot
mm,
solve any problem that's in front of you, right? There's a problem in front of you, can't imagine, you're not going to be able to solve it. But if you can solve problems, well, that's naturally going to have solutions for, improvements in one's mental health because you deal with the problems you have in your life. You have ability
mm,
to grow a bit more and see things a little bit differently. Excuse me. But also being able to see how you examine your own thoughts and imagine you becoming a different person and believing that you can grow and imagine like, well, how can I look? What if I can do this and trying stuff out? And I think that's
mm,
where particularly the role play story side of things is you can experiment and try being a different person and taking on a different persona and seeing how it feels. How does it sit well? Can I do it well? Can I do it not? Does it work for me? And like, am I having fun? Does it feel right? And again, comes back to that experimentation I mentioned before. You're practicing and trying stuff out to see what works. So yeah.
fantastic. I suppose with that sort of mental health component, I imagine just being able to be around community. I know we talk a lot about community at Caboose,
Yeah.
being around people, just helping that mental health. Have you noticed a change in some of your participants as a result of playing the games?
I- I'd say so. It's one of those things where the difference is subtle because I don't know what's going on in their head.
Of course, and also at home and those sorts of
Yeah,
things, I
there's so much,
suppose.
and it's like I want to know the stories when it's like when they
Mm,
leave the table, I'm like, so parents, like, tell me how are they going? Like, what have you seen a difference and whatnot?
mm,
And this is where the testimonials are super helpful. Be like, hey, can you like let
yeah,
me
of
know
course.
how is it
Yeah.
going? And I go, oh my gosh, it is making a difference. Good, but I'd say I get to see it best when I have those breakthrough moments. Another one
Yeah.
was a participant who struggling to stay calm and when they get frustrated, learning to
Mm.
do it a lot better when things went particularly bad in one game,
Yeah,
and
right.
they then managed to stay calm this time around. They managed to focus in.
Yeah.
It's like, legend, yes, go
Okay.
you.
That's
And let's
very
just focus on the
cool.
game here. you know.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's very cool. And there's such good skills for learning, whether it's, young people still in school or even for people in the workplace, as they start to get the skills to navigate a workplace, having these, I
Yeah.
suppose, problem solving or just emotional regulation, when
Absolutely on
things
that
go
side.
wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And what do you say to parents, though, who are a bit nervous about this? Because, we all hear, gaming, 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 stay off the gaming. What do you say to parents who might be hesitant in engaging with this, or people generally who think about gaming being a bit negative?
So So first of all, like it also depends upon what elements are nervous about, because there is a degree to which engaging in some content behind a screen, there's stuff out there which is not helpful and not healthy.
Mm,
There's a lot that can be
yeah.
said about different media platforms that do not, some would argue, do not regulate and control them
Yes.
very well, especially for kids at times. So I don't think
Mm,
I don't want to discredit that fear because I think there does need to be, especially as a parent, your job is to
mm,
like protect the kid and then as they get older, unprotect them more and more as they grow in their ability to make their own choice, right?
mm,
So I want to give credit where credit's due there. I would say, however, there's also research that definitively says, hey, games can also be really, really powerful for people's growth. Computer games are particularly good at building up frustration tolerance. If you play games like, so I'll give an example of a
mm,
game that some parents might look at and be like, oh, this is dark and gritty. And I certainly wouldn't say necessarily give it to younger kids. A game called Dark Souls. I haven't played it, but it's a very difficult game set in a dark, grim world. And people might look at it and go, oh, it's a dark, evil world. And I can understand if that's not your vibe, like, by all means. But the game is incredibly difficult. It is very, very difficult. But the research suggests that those difficult games build up the ability of the people who play them to stay calm, to stay regulated, to stay focused, because they fail again and again and again and again because it's so hard until they finally
mm,
succeed. And they can, and it allows them in their real life to have longer term goals. And when things go wrong, to just stay a little bit longer and increase their capacity.
yeah.
I'd also
Great.
say they're really good games in general, very good for problem solving as well, because they're designed to be solved, but designed to be
Mm,
difficult. And so you have to think on how do you solve this? And that applies for
mm,
tabletop games as well, in particular.
mm. With the tabletop games, like, is there a way to win the game, or like, how does? I mean, I'm a bit new to this too. Like,
Yeah, all good.
um, how do people win the game?
So for a role playing game, a tabletop role playing game rather, it depends upon the individual. Though it is worth saying that the tabletop role playing games are not competitive. They are not like
Okay.
there's one
Mm,
winner or two winners or whatever. The the winners are when everyone has fun. And what fun looks like from one person to another in a role playing game can vary. But usually it's something around a story well told that was triumphant, right? There's a big
Mm.
bad evil guy that the GM plays, and the players over multiple sessions over this campaign working towards becoming stronger and eventually defeat this evil lord who was going to destroy the world. And everyone goes, yes, that was really fun. We defeated this evil lord. And the GM who played that evil lord also goes, that was really fun. We told a great story. Man, that felt really good to make that story and like create it
Mm.
with everyone else at the table. That's when everyone wins.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question? I'm trying to
Interesting.
remember what it is. My
It
memory
does.
is my autistic
Yeah.
brain.
That's no. The question about winning, but then it leads me to think, okay, does the GM create these stories, or like how do these games actually evolve, or is there a script somewhere that you kind of a set of rules?
Yeah, great question. So, uh, so there's a lot of theories on like different approaches on how to be a GM and how to run them. The approach I take is some GMs can just improvise on the spot and uh was it what's the phrase, fly by the seat of your pants, right? Absolute, just like, let's just go and see what happens and we'll make it work and put it together, and they can do really well. I can do a little bit of that, but I find I need to do a little bit more preparation. For me, that looks
Mm.
like making a because if I make a script, do the players really have a choice? Not really, because they kind of just in the gaming communities, in the TTRPG gaming community, is referred to as railroading. Usually not seen as a good thing. Um,
Mm.
if you've just got a script, it's like, okay, this is what you need to do. Oh, you said the wrong thing. Nah, that's not okay. Like, that doesn't really work for improvisation. So the way
No.
I prepare it is I make a plan, right? This is roughly what it's going to look like. Or if I've got a big bad evil guy, they'll make a plan of how they're going to take over the world. But they won't factor in
Mm.
the players because they're not anticipating a bunch of heroes to come and defeat them, right? Their plan's just going to work. And then I create adventures where the players will interact with different elements of that plan. And because they're players, they're going to ruin it. And then the big bad evil guy goes, oh, gosh, done adventures. Okay, I'll change my plan to do this because I still want to take over the world, or whatever it is they're trying. And that back and
Mm.
forth continues until it gets frustrating enough for the big bad evil guy that they've nearly got their plan succeeded, but the players are about to try and fight them, and the big bad evil guy goes, that's it, I'm going to kill you. And then the players kill the big bad evil guy, usually. And the story concludes there. And there's a lot of things GMs can do to deal with pacing and different story
Mm.
beats and
Yeah.
adapt to the player's actions.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work on the GM side, is the shorter version.
Yes.
They do a lot of
Yes,
work.
I can imagine. It's a
Yes.
lot of prep work, right? In that to keep a game going. Typically, how long does a gaming session last then?
So it depends upon your group. I know me and some of my friends that I've played with, we can do whole day sessions, like just the whole day we're role playing as our characters, having fun, and it's great. But
Mm.
I know a lot of people can't do that, and some of my other friends can't do that. So I run at
Mm.
Spectrum Quest, if it's a younger group, I'll run it for 2 hours, and I find that's a good amount of time to get enough done and also get into the game and focused, while also not going so long that everyone starts to like just get tired and it's no fun.
Mm.
And then with
Mm.
older groups, I'm looking at running about 2.5 hours, since they can generally focus a little bit longer and want to get through a bit more content.
Yeah.
As a rough
Yeah.
guide, but depends upon your group.
Yeah. Okay. And then the story continues to each week. Is that how
Yes.
you
Yeah.
like? So then over the term, the story is continuing.
Yeah. So you can absolutely run role playing games like in like, one session. They're usually referred to as one shots. You could do a 6 to 12 session adventure. I run with Spectrum Quest what's called a campaign. The idea is a much larger story over many, many sessions.
Mm.
The campaign I ran with my friends went for 5 years.
What? What? Oh my
before
goodness.
finishing up. Now, at Spectrum Quest, I'm
Wow.
not aiming for 5 years. I'm aiming for
No.
hopefully 2 or 3 years tops is my target, though it can if the group's having fun, it's like, "We wanna keep going." It's like, "Okay, fine, we'll keep going." But I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Awesome.
keep it shorter. But the first group I ran for Spectrum Quest is still going. They started a year and a half ago, and they're still in the same
Wow.
story that they started a year and a half ago.
Amazing.
They get
That's amazing, Luke. That's
Yeah, that's what
great.
these stories are about. Players and this is why I say
Yeah.
you can't really get a sense of it in the first few sessions, because
Mm.
as you go a few sessions in, you get more and more invested in your character and what's going on and
Yes.
wanting to do whatever objectives the players choose and whatever is happening in the world. More and more
Yes.
invested. I wanna stay, I wanna stay, I wanna know what happens, I wanna know what happens. And so people just keep coming
Yes.
back, assuming I'm also doing a
Ah.
good job.
That's fascinating. It reminds me of this time I was facilitating a teenage work experience program and for neurodivergent young people. And one of the things we did at the end was this idea of like just telling a story about how the day went, and you had to kind of give a snapshot of your story and then hand it to the next one. And and as you're speaking, I'm like, oh, I think they might have been trying to create some game with this because they all leveraged off each other's idea. And, the big baddie was going to do this, and then they were going to eat the chickens, and then, the chickens were running away. And it was like, I was like, oh, I can't keep up with this. But I wonder whether that's what they were
Yeah,
trying to do some, game.
absolutely. Improvised storytelling. I love it.
Yes. Yes. Perfect. Another question from our audience is
Mhm.
setting up a business using tabletop games like board games, which is what I first, when I first heard of your tabletop games, I thought, oh, board games and card games to reduce social isolation, which absolutely love that. And David says, can your ideas be used in other gaming formats? So not necessarily just tabletop games, but maybe other games.
So I'm gonna extrapolate on what I think they're asking of can it help with people's growth? I'm imagining is some of the question and
Yeah,
people's well-being.
I think so. Yeah.
I would say some of it absolutely, because if you're interacting with another person face to face in particular, as opposed to behind a screen, you've also just with that alone, you've got other people at the table and you got to practice reading body language, right? So much
Mm,
communication is done through body language. Whereas a computer game, even if you're talking with someone, you don't get their body language, right? You get their voice and you get
mm,
their tone, but you don't get any expressions to read and understand. And
yeah,
also just got to deal with the person there. On a computer game, I can just be like, oh, I don't want to talk with you anymore. Alt F4, bye bye. But face to
yeah,
face, you kind of have to, it's a little bit more pressure. You have to deal with that discomfort a little bit more. You can't just hightail straight out of there, which can be a little bit tricky. And you have to learn. You don't have to get it perfect. You're not going to get it perfect the first time,
mm,
but you learn
mm,
to stay there and be present with the person. What So that's some of the ways I think it can translate across.
mm,
Some of the ways I think it doesn't work quite the same as board games is role-playing games are very focused on the story and narrative.
mm,
If you want talking in character and dealing with social
yeah,
situations, dealing with fictional characters, which provides a
mm,
lot more space to practice interacting and collaborative problem solving. You're working with other people and you have to
mm,
negotiate with them and figure things out.
mm,
Whilst elements of those are often in board games, it's competitive, not always, but often can be competitive and often isn't focused on storytelling and talking in character
mm,
necessarily, which is fine,
mm.
but it's just a different skill set and different
Different.
strength, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. Hopefully that answered your question, David, and maybe even some of those board games where you do have to have some element of role playing or
Yeah.
something in there that might be, you know, yeah, a good strategy there.
Yeah.
And where are you hoping Spectrum Quest will get to, in
Oh,
terms of using role playing for well-being and growth and social and imagination? Tell us
don't
a
get
bit
me
more
too
about that.
excited. Looking towards the
Yes, I'd
future,
love to. Yes, I
I
know.
am so keen. So one of the areas I really want to work with, I have some contact with some researchers. I'm no fancy researcher. I have a lot to give, but I'm no fancy researcher. But I really love reading the research on how these games can help and is continuing to be done and come out. I would love to in the future help with some of that if I can at all, especially from a design standpoint and experience standpoint of trying to help people and adjust and like, I'd love to connect with them more than I do. I want to build a bigger team. I'd love to have some other game masters alongside me to run the games. I am
Mm.
one person. I have only so many hours and I have more demand than what I can necessarily give. And so I'd love to have
There you
some other
go. To all
people
of you game masters out there,
who want to
get in
help
touch
out.
with Luke.
I'd love to have a discussion with you and see what we can work out. And I'd also really love to help out homeschoolers. I think there's like that community in particular, they,
Mm,
having a community space to connect with other people when you don't go to a traditional school.
mm,
I think I'd love to help with that, especially since I aim to provide support with growing social skills. I'd really love to connect with homeschoolers
mm.
and run games for them during the day, which would be really good.
I mean, yeah. I was talking to someone who works in that space this morning, so I'll have to do an intro for you. But
Please
there's
do. Please
definitely
do.
a lot of support that can be provided to that groups. So, in the last few minutes, I'd love to hear if you could be one of these characters in real life for a day. What character would it be, and why?
If I could be a role-playing game character here in the modern day, because my answer is different for a fantasy world. If I'm in a fantasy world,
Yes, I
I have a
see.
different answer.
Yeah.
But if it's in the
Okay.
real
Oh,
world,
wow. Okay. In the real world. Yes.
it's in the real world, absolutely a wizard, because that is
Ah,
so
okay.
useful. Traditionally, they often have so many useful spells just that can, like, if they can teleport, well, getting to work is much, much easier and saves me a lot of time. If it's in a
And no
fantasy
public
world,
transport.
no. No driving. If it's in a fantasy world, I really like the classes where there's a few versions in different role-playing games, but usually the one where it's like you can use a sword and you can cast spells through your weapon, and you got a bit of
Mm,
both. You got to be physically active and fit and fighting well, while also being able to cast magic and put up defensive spells. Like that's just always been really fun in my mind of like combining the two
love it.
uh together.
Love it. Yeah. Amazing. And another question from the audience. Do you deliberately work on developing individual skills through the game, or is it the story that becomes more important? Like, what?
So yeah, great question. Here's how I choose to go about it. Again, autonomy focused, and that's also based upon like again, more research needs doing. From what I can see of the research, it seems to be saying autonomy based support is where role playing games shine really well. So I always try to be like, hey, how do you want to do it? What do you want to do? I make sure they know, hey, I'm here to help grow, but I'm not help you grow in your social skills, but I don't want to force it. But I will challenge you
Mm,
in the game at times. So if I know there's someone who's like, oh, you struggled to like speak up or speak to NPCs or whatever, cool. I won't mind having a situation where an NPC gives your character a bit of information. You don't have to
mm,
speak. I'm not going to force it, but there's now a benefit. If you tell the group what you just learned from this NPC, then the group, excuse me, knows a little bit more. The other way I do it is there's a system in the game, in the system that we use. So we don't use there's a popular one called Dungeons and Dragons. We don't use that. I use a
yes.
different one called DC
Okay.
20. Conversation perhaps for another time why I use that system. There's a lot of thought
Yes.
behind that.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
But I give my players what I call inspiration, where they can do a bunch of cool things or re-roll. If they roll
Mm,
the dice and it goes badly, they can use an inspiration point. But the way they get that, I say to them, you choose something you want to work on as a player, and if
mm,
enough of you in the session succeed in achieving that thing, you guys get one or more inspiration points depending on how many people succeeded in their
mm,
personal goal. So I'll have some players, a few of the players will say, I want to focus on the game more. And if I do better at that than I normally do, that's my success towards the group for the
Mm,
inspiration points. So they've chosen what they want to grow in, and they've got the motivation, the reward if they succeed in that. But
mm,
they don't have to do it. Not all of them do, but they don't get as many inspiration points as a result. So they they also have an incentive to help each other because the whole
yes.
group benefits from these points that I mentioned. It's not
Right.
just your character
The
gets it.
person.
The whole group has
Yeah.
access to these now because individuals worked on what they're working on.
Yeah.
That's how I
Oh, that's
approach that.
cool as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Very good. Um, Rachel says, would love to hear more about why not D&D as your tabletop role-playing game of choice. We run social groups for young people, and they've been asking for a DD group, but we have no GM experience. There you go. Rachel might need to talk to Luke, and you might be able to help Rachel, but maybe tell us a little bit more about, you know,
Yeah.
your your system there.
Yeah.
We have time.
So the I'll try and give the short version because there's lots of details as to why. Don't get me wrong, D&D's D&D's a fine system. Like that 5-year
Mm,
campaign I mentioned, I ran that with D&D. It has some design differences that I don't think work as well as they could for supporting social and emotional development. For example, um, this is starting to get into a bit of the nitty gritty of
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
The
please do share. I'm sure our audience would love to hear.
So in D&D, the mechanics involve you get some free movement in combat. You get an action, you get a reaction, and you get a bonus action. And depending upon your class, you may have one or more of these. And that can be, I find, is a little bit confusing for some people when they're first trying to learn a role playing game. Because I do have a decent number of players who've never played a role playing game.
Mm,
Whereas the system I've chosen to use has just a 4-point action system. You have 4 actions you can do, and you can choose whatever you want. You want to use some movement? Great, that's one action. You want to make an attack? Great, you can just do that. You want to give yourself advantage so you can hit better on that attack just before? Great.
mm,
And maybe you want to do some extra damage. That's your 4 actions done, right? Don't want to move? Don't have to. Want to just move? You can do that. There's a lot of
mm.
flexibility there. And also, I, I'm mindful of like there's lots of decisions like that. And there's
Yes.
other role playing game systems which are great as well. I play Pathfinder and
Yeah.
I love that system as well, but
Yeah,
that's
okay.
also very complicated. And so I was trying to find a system that I was going, is this accessible, easier to understand and easier to pick up while still balancing out what's called spotlight effects, which so
Great.
how much time and so as the idea of if I make an attack and I roll really well and I do huge amount of damage, that's a spotlight moment for me. But spotlight can also greatly be influenced by how well the game is, like the way the game is balanced. And I wanted to make
Yes.
sure I had that. I could waffle on about it, but came down to a lot of design choices that I thought better suited growth, even though it's not as well known of a system. Because my objective is to help people grow, and like what systems can do that best. I thought this one
Yeah.
was going to do that best.
Yeah. That sounds very good. Well, it's very obvious to me that Luke knows his stuff. And so, anyone listening, we will be sending out Luke's details. You will be able to see them on the replay. So, yeah, please do get in touch. Before we wrap up, tell me what's the funniest or most unexpected thing that's happened during one of your sessions. I'm sure you have a whole range of stories, but tell us the funniest.
I'm flipping through them in my head, and like boys will be boys. There's some I perhaps won't mention, but it was very
Yes.
amusing and not, nothing completely inappropriate. But maybe I'll save it for better, less civilized company. One I loved that I found hilarious is my I had a particular character in the game
Mm,
and who was sort of giving missions for the players to go and do. And the players were starting to learn bits and pieces about what's going on. The context is the multiverse is falling apart. There's a multiverse hopping adventure. And they started to think, we think this person's evil. Now, I'm the GM. I'm not going to tell them left, right, or center. They choose what they want to do.
Mm.
And so they decided they were going to have a chat with him, and they decided to kill him. And decided to
Oh,
kill him. And I thought this was hilarious because now, very recently, they've come back. They went to another universe. They like became fugitives, right? They're running away from the universe because this person was an important person and whatnot. And they and then they came back to another universe and they learned, oh yeah, another city was going to trade with this city that this person NPC had been part of. They were, it was going really well. Things were looking positive. And then apparently he got killed off. We don't know how. And the person that replaced him now wants to take over the other city. And all the players are going, we made a mistake. We shouldn't have killed him. It's like, no, I swear, he was still evil. And it's just hilarious watching them be like, was he evil? Was he not? What's going on here? And it's very entertaining watching them like deal with the consequences of their actions. It like doesn't matter. It's a fictional
yeah.
game, right? They obviously wouldn't.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yes, right. But still, all of these things are like so
right.
amazing, the skills that come
Yeah,
out of
for sure.
having to play the game. Yeah.
And so I think they've learned the lesson of like, okay, maybe investigate further next time.
Yeah.
Well, I'll find out shortly. They only recently found out, so I'm going to see how they respond to in the
Mm.
future, whether they'll investigate or not. If you're watching, just ignore that I said that. If you're one of my players, you didn't hear that.
Yeah. You didn't hear that. Yes. Amazing. Well, I think this has been a very informative discussion, Luke. Thank you. And thank you for taking the
You're most
time,
welcome.
to come and join us at Kaboose for one of these Divergent discussions. And thank you everyone who joined live and those watching the replay. We do have a couple of other conversations coming up next week. One on Monday with Mike Meyer. He's going to be talking to us about leaning into your strengths, which is awesome. Mike has a book, which we're going to be talking a lot about. We also have Eric Garcia coming up shortly to discuss autism identity and advocacy. So that'll be interesting as well. As usual, you can get those tickets on Humanitix through the app or the website. And just a reminder, you will get a replay of this in your inbox in the next 24 hours. So thank you very much again, Luke, and thank you everyone online.
My pleasure.